I'm out. Perfect. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for attending and welcome to the Program Development Symposium. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Suresh Sunderrajan. I'm the Associate Lab Director for Science and Technology Partnerships and Outreach here at Argonne. I'd like to take the first 10 minutes or so of the symposium just to set context and introduce the content for the rest of the agenda. So with that, I'm going to jump right in, specifically talking about context. And hopefully all of this is old news to all of you, but I didn't want to presume, so I thought I would I would start by talking about our mission as a DOE National Laboratory. As you know, and I hope you agree, global leadership in science and technology is critically important for America's security, prosperity, and so forth. And really, it is the U.S. Department of Energy's mission to ensure this national security and prosperity by addressing our energy, environmental, and nuclear challenges through transformative science and technology solutions. Hopefully, this is something that you're all familiar with, but I thought I would start here. And as you probably also know, the way the DOE executes on that mission is through its national laboratories, of which Argonne is one. And the purpose of these national labs very much is to execute on these long-term scientific and technical missions and to develop and sustain differentiated, cutting-edge technical and science capabilities. Putting all of this together then, if we are actually going to take our science and if you will, create that prosperity and security for the nation, then it's about delivering impact from the work that we do. And so impact really, and this is the point I'm really trying to make, impact from our work is really very much part of our mission. And one way in which we actually deliver this impact is through collaboration, through partnerships, through work that we do with entities like industry, like universities, not-for-profits, et cetera, that we work with in order to take our science and technology and find ways of delivering value broadly to the US taxpayer. There's a very nice chart that Tom Mason, who was former lab director at Oak Ridge, uses. I like to use it as well. I think it explains very nicely the specific area within kind of the innovation ecosystem or roadmap where the national labs actually fit. So if you think about where we sit is shown by that peak in the center. Our work goes all the way from very basic to applied, and it usually involves work that is highly complex, highly multidisciplinary, done in a team format. That's the sweet spot, if you will, for national laboratories when you compare us with, say, university research, where we truly do multidisciplinary, team-based work, or when you compare us with industry, where our focus is actually typically much longer term than what industry typically does with R&D. Moving on, if you will, to just continue to set context a little bit. If you look at R&D funding trends, and that's what the two charts on the left show. One shows federal trends in R&D all the way through 2017 for about almost 30 years there on the chart as a percentage of GDP, and the chart, the next one over, is R&D as a percentage of the federal budget. And I think you'll all agree that especially when you look at the non-defense portion of that trend, it's reasonable to conclude that it's flat or declining. It's certainly not growing, and what we anticipate as we look out in the future years is that we don't anticipate that it will be growing either. When you look at the table, what you see is just a snapshot of 3 years of, if you will, global R&D spend. And what I hope jumps out at you is how the US is relatively flat or declining, relative to the rest of the world, particularly Asia and particularly China. So if national security and competitiveness and so forth are important parts of our mission, then these are challenging trends. Building on that then, this chart actually shows our operating budget for the same years as the table showed, 2014, 15, and 16. And not surprisingly, when you consider that DOE funding is about 85% or a little over 85% of our annual operating budget, our annual operating budget is pretty flat. The challenge with that chart, which is not obvious when you look at it, is that our costs are growing at about 4% a year. 4% of about 750 million, give or take, is about 30 million. So if we're not growing at least about $20 to $30 million a year in our annual operating budget, we are actually, in real terms, shrinking. And that's what's happening. In reality, if we are not growing through the work that we do, through the expansion of that sponsorship, there is a challenge that faces the organization. And so bringing it all together, if you will, it is this kind of effort through program development, through business development, it's engagement through sponsors beyond the Department of Energy, if we consider the fact that the Department of Energy budget is flat, or it presumes to be flat going forward, that will ultimately, it's working with sponsors beyond DOE that will ultimately help us deliver on our mission. And when I talk about it, I'd really like to speak about it in 3 words. It's impact, it's growth as an organization, and last but not least, working with sponsors beyond DOE, I believe makes us smarter. It helps us work on more relevant problems. It exposes us to problems that might be very interesting. And when we investigate those problems, they have a virtuous feedback back to the type of problems that the DOE is interested in, or we are interested in our core science mission. It's all of those things put together that make this kind of activity very important for Argonne. So with that very brief setting of context, if you will, I'd like to again welcome you to the symposium. What I hope you'll take away today is at least an introduction to some of the important principles of what it means to engage with sponsors and how we might do that in a way that is, particularly non-DOE sponsors, and what the value of that is. And more importantly, what some of the resources are that are available to you here at Argonne to help you in that journey towards outcomes that are meaningful to you. The agenda, hopefully you've got a copy, and it's on that chart. I just want to highlight a couple of things. We're privileged today to have some excellent speakers and people who have a lot of experience and expertise, have been there and done that, so to speak. Jason Pariso is going to follow this introduction. Jason is the director of the University of Chicago Innovation Fund and a great partner to Argonne. Hal Stillman will be speaking a little later. Hal was the senior vice president of research and innovation at ABB, a partner at PA Consulting, and is a world-renowned technology commercialization expert. In addition to having speakers of that caliber, we also have folks from within Argonne, like Aaron Greco, and the folks that you see on the panel, Ali, Ani, and others, who will talk to you about specific examples. A lot of these are live examples. I mean, the work that Aaron is doing continues to evolve, but we thought it would be particularly relevant and useful to see how we are approaching these case studies, and it gives you an opportunity also to talk to these folks to say, what is it why are they doing this? What value are they getting out of this? Where do they see this effort going? Before I go on, there's just a couple of additional updates that I'd like to add. First of all, there's a few other things that are going on, that we are trying to enable. As we think about program development, and particularly from an incentives perspective, we're really looking at trying to make enhancements to the existing R&D career framework. As you know, in the R&D career track, the career framework strongly rewards R&D excellence. What we're trying to do is to enhance that framework and also recognize, in addition to science and technology excellence, program development as a key aspect of what is considered important, if you will, within the laboratory. A second activity that we're working on as part of the Science and Technology Partnerships and Outreach organization is to help you get more awareness to funding opportunities that may be of relevance to you. Most of you have probably heard of Pearl, the proposal expediter system that we have that allows you to move a contract from the statement of work phase all the way through the approvals. Well, there's a module within Pearl called SPIN, and SPIN turns out to be the world's largest database of sponsored funding opportunities. And it turns out that it can be customized specifically for your interest. We will be offering some additional training on how to use this tool and how to make it particularly useful for you. And we hope this will be of great value because we can identify, using this tool, funding opportunities from a variety of sources that may be of relevance to you and that we would be able to apply to as FFRDCs. The last but not least, I just wanted to add also that we are making a concerted effort to try to move in our work with our sponsors to move from very transactional engagements to ones where we're actually building relationships and sustaining them, nurturing those relationships, sustaining those relationships, managing those relationships in a meaningful way. And to that extent, to specifically that effort, to help that effort, we are in the process of identifying sponsor points of contact from Argonne to sponsors within the DOE, the various program offices, as well as the offices of other federal agencies, as well as non-federal agencies where we might, industry partners where we might have a strong relationship. This is another activity that is already underway. In another 4 to 6 weeks, we should have the first database of this information made available internally within Argonne. We recommend that you leverage this database. If you are interested in reaching out to sponsors, then the right vehicle to do that is to engage with the point of contact that owns that relationship, to have a discussion with that person to understand how you might best engage with whoever that sponsor is. I'd like to end by just talking about some of these examples live as kind of proof points, if you will, of the work that we're doing in the program development space. Some of you may be familiar with Access, which is the Center for Energy Storage work here at Argonne. Access ran an industry day here at Argonne earlier this summer. We actually had over 130 attendees, over 80 companies represented that spent all day here at Argonne with us, participating in a series of presentations, discussions, Q&A, and tours. Very exciting to kind of be able to host that kind of activity here at Argonne, making sure that Argonne is recognized as a world leader in that space. It's certainly possible to do more industry days like this, and we very much intend to. On a slightly different note, some of you may be familiar with the work of Ali Erdemir and others on catalytically active nanocomposite coatings. There was an excellent Nature publications a couple of years ago, but what we found was that by taking that article, but rewriting it and purposing it towards a trade journal, the Society of Automotive Engineers, Automotive Engineering magazine, suddenly we were speaking to a lot more of potential interested parties from sponsoring perspective, from a licensing perspective. And that article generated 25 or 30 inquiries, and several of these are in discussion today. And then last but not least, hopefully you've all heard of the oleo sponge. If not, I recommend you go to YouTube and just just Google oleo sponge, and you will see a very captivating video demo of the oleo sponge in action. What's interesting is by carefully planning the rollout of this activity, we were able to generate over 50 million views on YouTube. We believe that this was picked up by a variety of media channels around the world, with the potential of reaching over 100 million. What's most interesting is that this resulted in a number of leads, over 300 serious inquiries, and we are working through those inquiries right now to get to the final sponsored research partners as well as licensing partners. Last but not least, this work of Jeff Elam, Seth Darling, and others here at Argonne, it was recognized in the recent R&D 100 awards, with 3 awards, in fact. They got an R&D 100 award, They got an award for the eco performance, and they also got an award, a special award of honor as kind of being the award of choice or the technology of choice from the editorial committee. So great recognition, great opportunities that are coming up, and what we hope you will see today is how to benefit from the resources that are available, the type of thinking that we can offer, the type of support that we can offer, so your work can enjoy similar profiling. With that, I'm happy to take a question or two if that's interesting, but if not, I'd like to turn it over to Jason Pariso to begin the actual agenda. Any questions? If not, thank you, Jason.